The easiest way to prevent Discord
scams
would be to change the default on private DMs.
No, but the whole point of Discord was you can message anyone. That was their whole advertising bit. You don't need a friend request. You can message anyone. And then you're saying, but to use it safely, just don't.
Yeah. And then every group you join, they're like, okay, so just turn off
all
thing
the chat
where
stuff.
Anyone can directly contact you, because every single time it's a scam.
Yeah.
Started during lockdown, needed something to do. They looked at each other, they said, hey, I like talking to you. And so from a garden shed in a box room in West London, they're discussing tech. It's the Small Time Bets podcast.
Do you think you could do a recap of like crypto markets, but like dialing it back like a month? Because I don't even know what's happening back then.
Yeah, I think you might be ready for this week / this month in crypto.
Go for it.
So in the past week, generally things have gone up and things have gone down, but overall the crypto market has more or less ended up back where it started. In the past month, surprisingly, from a month ago from where we are now, we're about 3-4% up.
Oh, that is surprising.
And where we are now is $19,000 is the price of one Bitcoin, and Ethereum is in at $1,300. And that was this week / this month in crypto.
I saw I forget where I saw it, but Ethereum has had its first few blocks now of deflationary blocks.
Oh, really?
Or deflationary, can you call it deflationary issuance? Basically more was burnt than was issued. That's quite interesting. Obviously it's still inflating because of the usage of the network hasn't been high enough to be constantly deflationary, but it's quite an interesting one that they've actually had moments where it has gone deflationary. The way you described the last month, it actually sounds relatively stable. And what was really surprising is I saw an article the other day that said that recently US stocks are now more volatile than crypto. And guess the basis, I think the NASDAQ in particular, there's been some really sharp sell-offs from some big tech stocks, and earnings calls have been met with quite substantial volatility, versus crypto, which is actually people have forgotten about because it's all dead and it's the winter, no one cares. It's all, I think most people think that Bitcoin and Ethereum have gone to zero in the wider sense of the world, because there's more important things, and actually it hasn't gone to zero, but it is just being nice and boring. Is that a fair takeaway?
Ethereum is surprisingly low at $1,300, and Bitcoin is below 20k at $19,000. So they're both alarmingly low and below certain key thresholds that should give you pause for thought. Like Bitcoin sitting quite comfortably below 20k, and now having done so consistently and again for so long that it's no longer even a talking point.
Yeah,
that should make you pause for thought. And yet it isn't. Neither is it the number zero. So yeah, there is that. As for it's stable enough to be boring, it is still fluctuating quite a lot.
Did you see Solana had another day off? Just
what's happened to Solana?
Public holiday. They've had quite a few this year, and I mean,
what's happened now? What happened?
I think it was October 1st. So they had another outage where one of the nodes was configured wrong, and it just caused the whole thing to go down. And what they do is this weird thing where they just gather up all the validators, because there's not that many of them, and they go, we're going to do a quick pause and a restart, and then they get the thing going again. And no one minds, because it's not critical infrastructure yet. It's starting to become its own meme, in the sense that they've had like 4 or 5 of these this year, and it's always due to like some node or some software that's running incorrectly, and then they're like, oh, it's all right, we'll patch it and fix it. And it's like, you can do that if it's just like a normal like web server, and you're like running an Azure stack, and you're trying to like, yeah, we had an outage, we've just fixed it, and we've done it. You shouldn't really do that when it's a distributed blockchain, but they had another break, and they're back.
while we're on
No one
this,
cares.
can we talk about the BNB bridge hack? And then again,
Oh yeah.
it's a parallel here. So BNB has a limited number of validators. I'm going to say it's
It's like
14.
21, isn't it?
And that means that
Oh no, 44.
When-
You're right.
44.
Yeah.
When that means that when the BNB bridge hack happened, they could just, I guess, phone up all the validators, tell them to all stop what they're doing, and then did they do a rollback to stop the stolen funds, or was it courtesy of USDT who helped them to isolate and prevent the funds from being moved around?
They
further?
froze the USDT funds, but a lot of it got washed through Ethereum.
Okay.
Because as soon as they'd...
So crucially, this is not Binance Smart Chain that was compromised. It was the BSC token hub, which is a cross-chain bridge.
So they stole 100 million BNB. They, within 2 minutes, they basically issued a load of DeFi loans. So they basically like washed it through liquidity pools. And then they bridged it out to like multiple EVM compatible chains. So like things that are compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine. So that would be like Ethereum, Avalanche, Phantom, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism. They basically did it all at once to just bridge it out to things that aren't on the Binance Smart Chain. And once it's on those, it's free. You know, it's gone, because all of those theoretically are censorship resistant. They're not. No one's gonna. You can freeze, for instance, you can freeze USDT, you can freeze USDC. You're not really going to freeze any Ethereum on these. Yeah.
Binance said it was able to recover 7 million from its partners.
You know what's kind of interesting about it? I listened to like a full breakdown of this on the Breakdown podcast actually, and what was fascinating about it is from a Binance perspective, you kind of can't, like, it wasn't that the blockchain got hacked. They have 44 validators, sure, it's not super decentralized, but they're not trying to be decentralized. They're kind of somewhere in between. It's like a Binance, big centralized exchange, having an Ethereum equivalent, right? So don't expect it to be as secure and decentralized as Ethereum. But it was really interesting that by having that hack and then moving on to things like Ethereum, and Ethereum having gone to proof of stake and now being subject to regulatory pressures more readily, it did make people think, oh, are they going to get a letter to like, quick, validators, you must freeze these transactions? And in the end, obviously no one's going to. So it's kind of like the hackers won on this one. And that's kind of by design, because it proves that the actual networks are secure, censorship resistant, that they work. The reality is almost all hacks aren't the blockchain, it's the bridge. Almost all of the hacks you hear about isn't because somehow the blockchain itself got broken or had a vulnerability in its security. It's that someone, so usually just a programming error, right, between one blockchain and another, that bridge, there's some sort of bug or vulnerability that someone exploits, and that exploit is there by design, right? It's someone's found it, they've exploited it, and they've ended up with loads of money. It's a hack, but it's not because the system broke. So, did CZ say anything about it?
Yeah. he made an announcement. Your funds are safe.
Did he?
Yeah, but he didn't actually say Seifu.
Yeah, but it was a big hack and shouldn't be trivialized. Have you followed the Celsius stuff that happened recently?
So Celsius basically is part of the legal process for following up with debtors. Do I mean creditors? Creditors.
Credit, yeah.
They publish a list of creditors as part of the insolvency process. The problem is if you do that, you tell everyone how much money everyone had put in, including first name, last name,
Yeah.
wallet address, and that's not good. That's not okay. What happens in the real world? Does this happen if a bank goes down? Is there a list
God knows.
published
I don't know.
of... Anyway, in crypto world, people were up in arms. They said, the perfectly public blockchain, clutching at their pearls. I'm appalled shocked, I tell you, shocked. I didn't expect this to happen. And it's what would happen in insolvency.
Is it though? Is that what would happen if a bank went down? All of the customers, millions of people's details would just, and how much money they had and everything would just be in the public domain? Surely not. Surely this is the weirdest thing ever, because it's like, you get these like really radical, crazy libertarians, and I have some libertarian views, but like some of them are like absolutely mad. It's like, we need guns and we need this, and like the government won't have my data, and they're really anti things like KYC. And their argument is, well, if you go and take people's details, you put it all in one place, it basically at some point someone's going to hack it and it's going to be everywhere. So it's basically like theft of my data. And you're like, okay, I mean, that does happen. But this is like a perfect example that plays into that, because you're a user of Celsius. They unfortunately go under because of mismanagement. You had some funds in there, and now everyone on the world now knows first name, last name, how much money you had, what country you were in, potentially your email address, any transactions that you'd made going in and out, and which wallets they came from. It's more than just like a doxing. It's actually, in some cases, it's actually very dangerous, because, there are some people who, in the country they live in, it's not a free place. That being in the public domain, they actually are probably at risk if the authorities in those countries actually get hold of it. So there's a very serious, side effect of this. It's kind of weird. Have they broken GDPR? In a massive, massive way?
Yeah, clearly something's not gone right here. I'm moving on. I
love that. I really hope that's what the judge says in the case. Summing things up.
Something's not right. Now, ShapeShift, the DAO, has become even more decentralized. What are you talking about?
So do you remember 2017, there was the whole ShapeShift thing where you could kind of swap anything to anything else, like Bitcoin to Ethereum or to BAT or to whatever, and they were just this company that did the intermediary bit. Then Eric Voorhees was just like, can't deal with all the regulators constantly trying to make life a misery, let's just decentralize the whole company. So they just over a year ago, they basically said, we're going to decentralize every element of the stack, starting with an airdrop to all the former users. And they kind of airdropped governance tokens. They had a head of decentralization. They set up a Discord channel. They basically started employing contractors through Web3, deals that you get paid. And, but it's like they really tried to just shift away from being a company. Anyway, they now have released the front end on the web, which is actually a full exchange, but hosted on decentralized infrastructure. So not on AWS, not on Azure, just actually running on a variety of different blockchain stacks to make sure that, the domain is decentralized and the way it's run is decentralized. And they've done the same with the mobile wallet. So they're a few steps closer now to, at some point, maybe in the next 2 or 3 years in their roadmap, they'll probably be able to just hold their hands up and be like, well, none of us actually run this. The community, it just runs because it's running on the blockchain. So there's no real company behind it. And it's quite an interesting development, I think. I have a feeling ShapeShift is going to become more popular and, because of things like Celsius and the doxing and all these other things that people start to become aware of. The convenience of what ShapeShift used to offer, which is literally, I want to swap some Bitcoin into Ethereum, make it happen in a nice, simple user interface. That's mostly what people want. They're not day traders. They just want to have secure, easy, manageable, management of whatever assets they have. I suspect this move will be quite a pivotal one to the next sort of 12, 24 months. And maybe when crypto becomes back in the public consciousness, I think it'll be one of the main players.
Very good. Okay, Jonathan, I think it might be time for this week's Not a Sponsor.
So given the crypto theme of this episode, I've kind of done a flashback to something called Iconomi. Do you remember Iconomi? Back in 2017, during the ICO rally, there was this thing that launched that you could basically set up like different ratios for your fund of like allocations to Bitcoin or Ethereum, and other people could as well. And you could just put money like £100 into this fund based on the spread of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and all the other crypto. They've made quite a resurgence. I tried it out again. I set up a fund for us, a small time bets one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is pretty simple, and the way it works, you don't have to put loads into it. I put in £100, and the structure of our portfolio is primarily Bitcoin and Ethereum, with then little 10% allocations to like Polkadot, Cosmos, Thorchain, Polygon, the like other layer 0 blockchains. Anyway, I set it up, but Iconomi is quite interesting because it's not self-custody, so you don't own your crypto. It's very much a way of having a spread portfolio for small amounts of funds. So if you've got £100, you can put it into, either one cryptocurrency or spread it across like a fund that's balanced across different areas, depending on what your preference is. If it's DeFi, if it's metaverse stuff, if it's NFTs, if it's just the big standard, Ethereum, Bitcoin ones. Anyway, I set up one for us, a small time bets one, and it's just tracking that structure at the moment. But it's an interesting one. There's loads of different funds on there, but as an actual way of following different portfolios, and it's quite interesting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for this week's Not a Sponsor. Iconomi.
I think it's time for This Week in NFTs.
This Week in NFTs.
And some old news, which was the Apple stuff. Did you see their stuff around NFT fees?
It's an extension of everything else they do, isn't it? So they want to take a cut of economic transactions that happen with digital products on the Apple iOS platform.
Oh, so it's not specifically NFTs, it's like...
And typically, the percentage, which has been as high as 30%, I think it's below a threshold of 1 million revenue per annum. Doesn't even apply at all. But and obviously it depends. If it's subscription, it can be lower. But yeah, it's something between 15 and 30%.
So how would that work for like NFTs? What does it mean for Apple to take a cut of an NFT?
Yeah, okay. So if the transaction happens on the iOS platform, and the distinction there being that if you were on a website through Safari and you transact, then that's not you on iOS. So you can buy a Kindle in Amazon.com on the website through Safari. You can buy a Kindle book, like a digital Amazon book in the Kindle format. Yeah. And then that purchase, like, it's no problem. But if you try to buy it in the Kindle app, halfway through, it will tell you to stop. It will tell you you can't do it because Amazon don't want to lose the cut to Apple. But Amazon is also forbidden from telling you how to complete your transaction. So they'll just sort of, it just sort of stops and they go, oh, but you can get a sample if you like.
Does this mean... So hypothetically...
But it also applies to in-app purchases. So you're in a game every time you purchase a thing. And that's what the whole Fortnite thing was about.
Yeah.
Right? Fortnite was pushing back because all of those in-app transactions, Apple was trying to say, this is our ecosystem which we worked so hard to build, took major risks, it paid off, but also takes a lot to maintain it and keep it good and moderate it. And within this ecosystem, if you're transacting, we'll take our cut. Thank you very much.
So take something like Instagram. Say Instagram, I mean, they seem to have integrated NFTs into the flow of like posting things. Say they have like
not purchase and transacting it.
But say hypothetically they do. Say they add a marketplace for NFTs within that. If it's the app, I guess it would be that because it's only an app. Apple would take a fee from that marketplace. Do you think that will
obviously now the biggest players within the Apple ecosystem have bent the rules somewhat.
Like who? Like Amazon.
So, like, I don't think the same rules are applying completely uniformly. So, like, Disney Plus subscriptions or Netflix subscriptions, I'm not sure that the same rules are being consistently and universally applied, which is part of what the Fortnite pushback was about.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, in principle, yes. In principle, absolutely.
Huh. That is strange. Anyway, moving on.
But remind me, this came up in the first place because was Apple trying to... The thing is, like OpenSea, there's not a good enough mobile wallet integration anyway, and also nobody who uses OpenSea is using the OpenSea app, the iOS app, which is perfectly okay.
Do they have an app?
Yeah, they've got an OpenSea iOS app.
No way.
But you wouldn't be using that, you'd just be browsing them. So it kind of gets a bit moot, but yeah.
I think it came up just after we recorded last time, sort of end of September, where I forget who it was. There was one, I think it came from Apple. They basically said, we will allow NFT sales on apps in the App Store, but it has a 30% fee because it's an in-app purchase essentially.
Yeah.
Which is, it kind of rules them out. I think it rules out Apple's app ecosystem from having any play in the NFT space. I can't imagine anywhere where that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different on Android, but yes.
Actually, yeah, it rules out any of the middleware players, actually, because
if transactions are happening through a native app rather than through the browser. And again, the challenge is that right now, we're not in a universe where there's a meaningful mobile browser integration of a crypto wallet, an NFT wallet. So it's moot anyway right now. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I wonder whether it will actually long term it will push people back towards the web, like web browser, rather than dedicated siloed apps, like native apps. I don't know. If you think about like the openness of the web, it was designed to be a browser and a wallet, not a walled garden.
It'll be something heavy-handed that the EU does that pushes people back before anything like what you're talking about.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, speaking of OpenSea, have you seen some new features they've got?
So I noticed recently that they've got an analytics tab and also their activity tab is a bit more detailed. So it's almost like someone in OpenSea saw... What's that app?
Nansen.
It is. And then realised that, hold on, there's a huge rich treasure trove of data here, and we only have to surface a tiny bit of it for it to be massively useful to and potentially enriching of our platform.
And you know what it might be? Nansen announced they were going to basically make a better version of Discord and a better version of OpenSea because they know how to do it. It's true of OpenSea, but it's not true of Discord. Discord was their main target. So
what do they know that helps them make a better Discord? Because I don't really even get why Discord is good in the first place. Like I'm using it all the time, I'm in it, but I couldn't, if you asked me to articulate...
It was the scams and the bots.
Why does Discord exist, distinct from other platforms? I'd be like, because it's got quite good integration into like Collab Land. Like that's all I'd come up with.
That was literally the bit that they were like, the way that the scamming element from Discord is what they were like, we need to do it better, because everyone kept Discord.
Well,
kept
the easiest
hacked.
way to prevent Discord
like
scams would be to change the default on private DMs.
No, but the whole point of Discord was you can message anyone. That was their whole advertising bit. You don't need a friend request. You can message anyone, and then you're saying, but to use it safely, just don't.
Yeah. And then every group you join, they're like, okay, so just turn off
all
thing
the chat
where
stuff.
Anyone can directly contact you, because every single time is a scam.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the Discord model. But anyway,
so Nansen had an idea. They thought they can do that better, and they also thought they could do OpenSea better than OpenSea. Well, they wouldn't have any of the liquidity, but they'd have an incredible analytics dashboard.
But the analytics from OpenSea's new beta stuff is good enough. Actually, it's for the first version. Given this is their like early beta, I think they've done a surprisingly good job. Even before Luxware didn't do this. I guess maybe they didn't have the data. No, they could have the data. I think it's more about you need to have good back-end analytics where, data warehousing and all of the analytics engines on top.
Sales figures for a subset of a given NFT collection. But yeah, I mean, for a first cut, this is good.
But they show like outliers. So they show like the pricing, then they show the outliers, they show number of sales, they show floor price over time, which has always been a thing that you don't really get to track or see normally. The volume, the pricing, they do it by also, but I think you can filter by different attributes. So if you're it starts to bring a whole new element of, it's the same way like financial people price of assets, right? You bucket them and you kind of compare them against each other. It's starting to add those elements to it, which is very, I think it's a level of maturity that people will start to see and go, oh, there is familiarity in this way that you treat it as property, right? It's a digital property and it's now got the tools that analyze it. So those are quite cool.
So Anthony Hopkins has released some NFTs. Is that true?
Mm.
Okay, what are they?
They're generative ones, but themed on his they're his face, but they have different properties themed on all the films he's been in. So it's kind of.
Are you getting one?
No. The reason I want to talk about it is like, firstly, what the hell? Like, what world are we in? Where Anthony Hopkins, one of my favorite like actors, like an absolute like incredible performer of his time, and he has like his NFT collection. I was like so confused. And do you remember months ago we talked about Guy Seri and the weird like web of celebrities that actually make up the NFT space? Like we kind of like, you know, figured out, you had like Ashton Kutcher and you had Guy Seri and you had Madonna and the Beeple, and like there was all this web of celebrities that just kind of are endorsing one another to get into this space. Anthony Hopkins changed his talent manager to, I don't know if it was Guy Seri or one of the other big ones, you know, the ones that we're talking about. And then this like elite actor is suddenly now pushing out an NFT project, and it sold out within hours. Like it became massive. It's on the top 10 in the last week. And I'm kind of lost at what to think about it, because Anthony Hopkins is a legend. It's not like he needs the money or like the fame or anything. It's just like it's a weird one, right? This doesn't feel cash grabby or selling out, but it feels like they're testing a new format, like they're leaning on his repertoire of work to inform the PFP artwork and generative things around him that then people collect, I assume, as part of the fandom of Anthony Hopkins stuff. But it's such a different model from the usual ones, which are somewhere between a Ponzi and a video game. This one is like a genuine love of Anthony Hopkins stuff. And it made me think about, do you know the history of like the Hollywood stars in Hollywood?
The star system in the studios.
No, the walk, what is it called? Walk of Fame? What is that walkway with all the stars?
The Walk of Fame.
Yeah, Walk of Fame? Is that what it is?
Whatever.
But like, I was listening to like a little documentary about it, and that was envisioned as a way of drawing people to that area of Hollywood for tourism, because it was just suffering. Because all the studios are actually outside of that area. They don't film in that area, and no one likes to live around there, and all the businesses are suffering. So they were like, how do we attract people to come and hang out in the Hollywood bit? And so they made this whole Walk of Fame bit and put stars there, and people going, standing on Marlon Brando or like Marilyn Monroe or whatever it is, and you take your picture with the star, and it kind of creates this place that people gravitate to, and then it boosts the local economy. I can't help but feel that the celebrity weirdness in the NFT space is like that, but for Web3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it pulls people into the space, and then the money, I guess, that's brought in is like invested in the ecosystem. It just feels a little bit like that.
Well, I mean, the true parallel would be to say, so therefore is something that starts as a gimmick and a real estate just wheeze, and then turns into a seemingly established canonical
maybe
that people are excited about.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's the Anthony Hopkins moment.
I'm seeing this. I'm looking at the NFTs now. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Did you notice that OpenSea changed their icon one day 2 weeks ago?
No. What is it's still?
Yeah, they changed it just for one day into a zigzag in commemoration of David Bowie, and as part of the Bowie on the Blockchain NFT collection, which includes collaborations with some major artists, but also with Pussy Riot, who produced a limited edition 50 identical NFT collection. And, you know, these various things. And yeah, so just for one day, Bowie was a hero in the Bowie on Blockchain on OpenSea.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, again, it's obviously when you're dealing with figures as big as Anthony Hopkins and David Bowie, it's like the cultural shadow cast by these people is so much larger than some NFT project that just spun up. So it is hard to come to terms with it and make sense of, okay, now where should I place this in the overall canon of David Bowie's contribution to Western society and art?
I think you hit the nail on the head. This is what I'm struggling with, because like Beeple, he does a drawing a day and goes viral, blah, blah, blah. But like Anthony Hopkins it's hard, it's difficult. You know, you've got like some of the traits here are about being Hannibal Lecter. It's about being Odin in the Marvel Cinematic. It's like, it's his entire filmography, life embodied in this NFT collection. It's just a weird homage in this space. It's sold out in 7 minutes. Sorry, not in a day, in 7 minutes. Utility unlock next Thursday on the 27th of October. I'm so confused.
So what's the utility?
No one knows. You unlock it on the 27th of October. It's like, oh no, actually no, it says 39 random buyers receive an autographed Dreamscapes art book. 5 buyers will be randomly selected to join an intimate discussion with Sir Anthony Hopkins via Zoom. Like, I'm so perplexed. But I almost feel like Anthony Hopkins must have bought into this. I don't think he's being coerced in some weird way. Like a 2-time Oscar winner, like the absolute legend that is Anthony Hopkins. I don't think no one's forcing him to do this, I assume. But someone's obviously convinced him. Maybe this is a good way to it's memorialised. What's the word? Like to put his life's work on the blockchain in some weird kind of like event. Anyway,
so current prices for this range from half an ETH up to the highest kind of actual price, not just a made up number, is probably in the region of 50k USD. Now, let's talk about our favourite artisanal craftsman from New Tokyo, Wagmi-san. Wagmi-san, currently between seasons in his battles against kaijus and his crafting exploits. Now, what you'll be excited about is 2 things. One, we're coming to the end of the time when some people who participated in season 1 actively can redeem their participation for the right to buy a mirror, aka kagami, and then turn that into a physical item that commemorates their participation in season 1. And they'll get a digital item, a digital NFT during the burn process, and then they'll also get a comfy hoodie, a physical comfy hoodie. But that's not today's news. Today's news is that there's some kind of physical, like, what's going on? There's something else happened. Like there's another hoodie has appeared that you can buy.
Yeah, like an all black, I guess, dark grey hoodie. Are they becoming a brand? This is what I'm really perplexed. And
can you buy it, or do you have to?
Well, they haven't said yet how you would get it. It's the reverse Gucci. It's the reverse luxury product one. It's what we said a long time ago, where this is opposite land in like every way possible. Is that what's happening? Are they building a
I think the dark
luxury
hoodie that
brand?
you've seen on Twitter, I think is just a different product. But I think what we always said would happen is going to happen, which is that there will be a crossover of the digital NFT of a grailed thing where you've put your profile picture face of an ape on some hoodie or Nike high tops, and you're going to be able to get the physical version of that sooner or later, but sooner, I think. So the comfy hoodie that's what you're going to get, because you are going to get a comfy hoodie when this is absolutely ridiculous.
Shadow blank physical hoodies, October 24. No, I think this is real world blanks, as in wearable
I am
blanks.
going to go. I'm going to go. I'm literally leaving. So that's been good. That's been a good podcast.
Do you know what we'll talk about next week?
Yeah.
So I was thinking I'd quite like to go deep on the whole transhumanism tech and everything that's happening in like wearables and body augmentation and all those things that maybe we don't cover enough. And then if we have time, explore the Web3 infrastructure projects. So not just the stuff that we talk about in NFT and DeFi, but like what's actually like going to host the decentralized web.
Ooh, interesting.
Sounds
Very good. I'm looking forward to that. And thank you for a great podcast.
Likewise. I'll catch you next week.
Next week.
Started during lockdown, needed something to do. They looked at each other, they said, hey, I like talking to you. And so from a garden